Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1776. The topic is Q&A, and the title is How to Minimize Joint Pain While Training with Minimal Equipment. Okay, so I got a new client. We're just starting to work together, so we went through the consultation process, getting to write out the programming and whatnot. So the client, their issue has been that they've been dealing with a lot of joint pain that seems to just be not going away, and it's holding them back from everything. They're just feeling overwhelmed, flustered, and kind of feeling defeated due to the joint pain. So they wanted help, and as we talked through things, they believed that the joint pain was being caused in part due to the fact that they have minimal equipment. So they train at home, and they believe that limited access to more variety of equipment, such as machines, is what's causing their joint stress. And they were wondering, should they, kind of abandon the home gym? Should they get a commercial gym membership? But they know they don't have time. They also have a limited budget, so they're just feeling kind of stuck and uncertain as to what to do. As we talked about their current training routine. They train 5 days a week. They like to follow Dan John's kind of big five. So they do a squat movement, a hinge movement, a push, a pull, and a carry. And they try to blend in 2 to 3 of those elements every single workout, and then rotate throughout the week. But that means those 5 elements are being repeated quite often throughout the week. They use circuits to get in as much as they can. They have about 40 minutes to train, so they like to use circuits to get in as many movements as they can. An example workout, something they just did recently, they said was an overhead press into pull-ups into deadlifts. And then what they brought that up as an example because they're having some shoulder and kind of mid-back pain. And that was a workout that they had started. They loved that workout, but they weren't able to finish it, and they kind of felt beat up and defeated, and that workout went to crap, which is why they decided to reach out. So, as we went through the consultation, we talked about quite a few things. And I want to reveal what were the issues that was causing the joint stress and the joint pain. We looked at nutrition and training. For nutrition, they're under eating. They're just not eating enough calories during the day. They have some days where they're good, but a lot of days where they're not. They have a very busy job, so they say once they get into work, they kind of forget to eat or they miss some meals, and by the end of the day, maybe they only have 1,400, 1,600 calories, and they need to be up more around like 2,600 to 3,000. So some days they're barely hitting 26. A lot of days they're like 2,000, maybe low 2,000s. They're just not eating enough. Along with not eating enough comes inconsistent protein. Some days they drink like 3 protein shakes and they have 300 grams of protein with all their meals. Then other days they barely hit 100 because they were so busy. So the protein is very inconsistent. They're also underhydrated. They don't drink anywhere near enough fluid. And again, they say they're overwhelmed with work. They actually work out fasted. So they get up in the morning, they go right into their training. They barely drink anything while they train. Then they eat a quick breakfast. Maybe sometimes they don't eat breakfast. Then they go through the rest of the day trying to catch up on hydration and food, but they honestly weren't even paying attention to hydration. So nutrition alone, all of that is going to cause joint pain. All of that is a recipe for joint pain, is you're not providing your body with enough recovery nutrients, which would be the protein, but also the carbs and fats that are the energy nutrients we need to put the protein to work. So they're not eating enough of the protein, so they can't synthesize new protein like muscle tissue and fix everything. They don't have material to fix everything with, and they don't even have the energy they need to fix those things. So it's like you're trying to build a house. You don't have enough materials and you don't have enough workers. So you're not going to have a house. They're also underhydrated, which is absolutely going to cause a lot of issues. When we're dehydrated, our muscles kind of feel stiff, our joints don't feel as lubricated, everything just kind of feels like crap. So all of that is going to add up to a lot of joint pain and under recovery. So that was in its own self stuff we needed to be addressing. But then also in the training, they don't do any mobility work. Their way to warm up, for example, he said with the overhead press, pull-ups, and deadlifts, he said he went into the gym, he threw the bar on the rack, he has another bar that he deadlifts with, and he just put it at 135. So he said he overhead pressed the bar for 10 reps while it was empty. He did some feet-assisted pull-ups on the bar in the overhead rack position, just for like a warm-up set of 10 on pull-ups, and then he did 135 for a set of 10 on deadlifts. Then he immediately went to 95 pounds on overhead press, went to full body weight on pull-ups, then went to 225 on deadlift, and he worked his way up. He was doing around 200, like 185 to 225 in the overhead press, body weight pull-ups, but he does add weight typically, but he said his shoulder was already bugging him at that point. And then deadlifts, he was trying to do speed singles, clusters of 4 at 275, and it was just, there's no warm-up. Everything's violent. Within like 5-6 minutes, everything's maxed out and violent and aggressive on the body. So just, not enough warm-up, no mobility work. There's no corrective movements built into his circuits. He just does big, heavy things. He doesn't do like small corrective therapies for the mid-back. He doesn't do a lot of like isolative mobility work for the hips. There's so many things he could be doing to address that joint pain, but he doesn't know that those things are necessary. He believes that just the big lift should be doing it. He believes that like if you do big lifts, that should strengthen everything, even the weaknesses. Therefore, there shouldn't be any problems. Definitely not going to happen. So we got to fix that. And he has no intensity moderation. He just goes up to whatever feels the best he can do each time he works out, and that's widely varied because his recovery is so crap. But some days he does crazy heavy singles, hits like PRs on things. Some days he feels like crap, so he tries to do a PR of like 10 reps. It's kind of all over the place, but every time he trains, he tries to max out his intensity. So, all of that is going to be a huge recipe for disaster when we talk about joint pain. None of that actually has to do with the fact that he has minimal equipment. None of the nutrition issues have to do with minimal equipment. And the training components, he can do small movements with very minimal equipment. You just have, bands, resistance bands. You can do it with weight plates. You can do it with body weight. There's a lot of things he could be blending in. So that's some of the changes that we started making. The first changes we made were nutrition, because everything else means nothing if we don't get nutrition in place. It wouldn't matter what the hell we did with his training. If he doesn't eat enough calories, if he doesn't eat enough protein, if he doesn't hydrate enough, none of the training changes would have made a damn bit of difference. So you should never change your training until you know your nutrition is on point, because otherwise you're wasting time. The training changes will not produce the result you want. You're going to be flustered, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to continue to try to find more answers, but you're looking in the wrong place. The place you should look at is nutrition. So we started creating some meal options, some quick options, things that he could, heat up, grab that's pre-made, microwave it, but things he can make very quickly. He can make and eat in under 10-15 minutes with sufficient protein. So we went through and made some options for that. We also added an intra-workout drink. Since he does like to work out right away, I have him drinking some protein powder, like whey protein powder, mixed with some Gatorade sugar, like sugar powder. And that's going to give him some hydration. That's going to give him some carbohydrates right away. That's going to give him some easily digestible protein right away. So now when he's coming out of the training session, he doesn't have this huge deficit that he now has to try to fill throughout a very busy day. The deficit's going to be a lot smaller due to us using an intra-workout drink. Then we also added hydration goals. I had him set reminders at noon, 4, and 8 p.m. to drink something. And we set a goal of just 16 ounces of fluid, and I want him to be crushing that goal, and I want to move up from there. But we just want to start with something that's small, that's doable, so even if he's in a panic, even if he's in a rush, he can just swig down 16 ounces real fast. But we just got to get him used to drinking more fluid, so that way it can help him feel more hydrated. The training changes that we made was we added a movement prep circuit using bands, weight plates, and or body weight. So for bands, like we're doing TKEs, terminal knee extensions to warm up the knees. We're doing like scarecrows or Cuban presses to warm up the shoulders and mid-back. With weight plates, we can do bent over face pulls to warm up the shoulders. There's a lot of small movements that we could be doing with bands, weight plates, and body weight. Like body weight, you could be doing some 90-90 hip rotations, butterflies. He could do just some basic body weight squats and hinge style reverse lunges to open up his adductor. There's a lot he can do. And we set that for 6-minute circuit. So he gets in, starts that stuff within 6 minutes. He's then on to his bigger exercises for the day. Now, with his bigger circuits, we're using just terminology we made up in our discussion is to waive the intensity in the exercise selection. So he does a small movement, a big movement, and a medium movement, and they're all going to be somehow related. So, for example, he might do a banded Cuban press, and then he goes into barbell overhead press, and then maybe we do scapular pull-ups, like scapular retraction pull-ups. And that's a nice blended circuit that's going to work on overall shoulder health as well as getting his push muscles. And if we do the scapular pull-ups where he does, say, 3 scapular pull-ups into, X number of full range of motion pull-ups, making sure he starts with that scapular retraction, then we're going to get the pull movements built in as well. And that's going to allow us to blend in more corrective therapy exercises by choosing a small, big, and medium movement as his circuits rather than a big, big, big. And then his body feels annihilated. So that's been very helpful. And then we also used an intensity wave protocol for his big lifts. So we're using RIR, reps in reserve. I'll talk more about that in a second. But what this does is maybe week 1 of a program, he does sets of 5 reps with 1 to 2 RIR, reps in reserve. So he does a set of 5 where he really believes he could have done 6 or 7 if he wanted. Then week 2, maybe we go to 4 reps with 1 or 2 RIR. Week 3, we go to 3 reps for 1 or 2 RIR. And then week 4, maybe I have him go for a max effort set of 3 or max effort set of 2. Something like that where he gets to have his fun, get that super intensity. But now we're waiving the intensity, which is going to help him not dig such a deep hole of recovery that he's never getting out of it. So this is going to maximize his strength progressions, actually. He's going to actually progress better in strength, and he's going to be able to eliminate that joint pain. So these were big changes that we made, also some small changes, relatively. So it's just a nice mixture of nutrition and training changes, and he's going to now feel freaking amazing. I've done variations of this for a lot of clients over the years, and it works every time. So if you're struggling with joint pain, look at nutrition first. Check out your calories, making sure you're eating enough. Protein, make sure you're eating enough. Hydration, make sure you're drinking enough. We have a free handout on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. Go to free nutrition education. The first link on that page is create your own nutrition program. So you just do that for free. We also have one-on-one nutrition coaching if you want. I can actually find out more about you. I can help set that all up and help coach you every week and do education, answer any questions you want. Make sure that the meals are tailored to your schedule, your time constraints, your preferences, all those things. Nutrition coaching right now is just $100 a month. No contract. Pretty awesome. You can find out more about that on the website. For training, you want to make sure you prepare the body to move well. Make sure you loosen tight muscles. Make sure you get some blood flow and fluid flow through your joints. Make sure the body's ready for the big movements. So you want to do movement preparation, warm-ups. Podcast 1112, which you can access on our website. Podcast 1112 is a training podcast titled The Best Warm-Up Routine. That'll literally tell you what to do. Perfect. You want to mix in corrective therapies by adding small movements into your big circuits, so that way you have isolated ways to work on like the ankle, like maybe doing calf stretches, work on the knees, doing TKEs, work on the hips. You can do a whole bunch of Cossack squats or leaning over Cossack squats, work on the mid-back, the shoulders, like I talked about. You can do scarecrow raises, you can do Cuban presses. There's a lot of things you can do. YTWs, one of the great exercise. You can do that on the floor, you can do that on a flat bench, incline bench, but you want to blend those in. And then we have intensity regulation. You want to learn how to use moderated and controlled intensity to have waves of intensity in your programming so you can actually maximize your performance and actually maximize your strength progressions. You can learn about that in podcast 1738. It's a training podcast titled Intensity Regulation, Percentages versus RPE versus RIR. So you can learn about the pros and cons of different models of intensity regulation. I mentioned RIR because it's one of my favorites, but you might like percentages, you might like RPE, which is rate of perceived exertion, and then RIR is reps in reserve. But you can learn more about that in podcast 1738. We also have our nutrition coaching service, where I'll do the coaching service for nutrition and training. So I would do the nutrition as well as writing your training. So we have a lot of free stuff with the podcast, with the handouts on the website, and we have guided coaching if you want to pay for the extra focus and one-on-one attention and just make the process a little bit more streamlined to get it set up. So there's tons of information available, a lot of opportunities for you to be able to address joint pain if you are struggling with that in your training. Okay, if you have any questions, if you need anything, let me know. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. And if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on YouTube and Instagram under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.